I just finished watching season 1 of The Last Kingdom, and guys, I get the hype. I get the hype. Today we're going to be breaking down the entire first season. I'm going to talk about what I liked, if there's anything that I didn't like. We're going to be giving you as deep of a review as we could possibly get. Hello everybody and welcome back to another video. If you are new here, my name is Kyle. I'm your guy with too many YouTube channels. So I want to get one thing out of the way before we actually end up diving into this particular story. If you've been following the channel, if not, doesn't matter, I'm going to explain it. Vikings is my second favorite show of all time, the first being Attack on Titan. I have been very invested with Vikings. I've watched countless hours of content on Vikings because I love the show and I love the characters so much. So it was difficult and I was hesitant to actually watch this show because, one, it is compared to Vikings a lot. Secondly, you have some of the same characters. We have Alfred. We have Ragnar of all people. I wasn't really interested in watching a show where we have those same characters because they're already so iconic and I love them so much from the Vikings TV show. I think they handled it well. The only thing that I can't really get over is looking at Ragnar differently, but thankfully, which I believe is going to change with time, we didn't see too much of Ragnar within the season, but I like the fact that we don't have literally all of the same characters. We don't see a Lakrotha, we don't see Bjorn Ironside. I don't know if that's going to come up, but I want to stay spoiler free because I'm thoroughly enjoying myself watching the show. We follow a character named Uhtred. I love that. I love that it's separate for the most part. So we got over that, which was nice to see. It's my only reason I was hesitant to watch the show. And I hear a lot of people talk about The Last Kingdom actually being better than Vikings. It might get that way. I don't feel that way right now. But hey, who knows? If it's better than Vikings, man, whew, that's going to be a good show. Regardless, I'm excited to talk about this, man. So there is, when it comes to the very beginning of the show, I feel like we're going to have to drive through it a little bit quicker because there's only so much that we could say. And of course, this being the pilot of the show, there's a little bit of an introduction. I didn't know that we weren't going to follow the child version of Uhtred, but we get a little bit of background on that. Long story short, their Viking village ends up getting attacked, and him and this character named Brita, the girl they ended up being with, which I thought that he was going to be with probably throughout the entirety of the show because they made like a big love story out of it. But long story short, the point of the entire first episode is Uhtred going on his own quest to regain his birthright. He wants power. He's going to bend to no man. And this is where it's going to leave him in some issues because he ended up like Brita wanted to just escape with him, but he wants to take over. It's very interesting, but it didn't quite capture me just yet. There's a lot of stuff that I'm excited to talk about. And this is where things pick up because there was the, excuse me, forgive me if I'm missing the name right now, but there was somebody of significance that Uhtred was being blamed for with the death. Nobody believed him. So him and Brita ended up having to flee. And that was interesting in itself. They ended up loving each other. They're building a relationship together. And again, I thought that Brita was going to be like his partner forever. Maybe she was going to die and he was going to go on like a ultimate rampage. But we'll talk a little bit more about it. So this is where they end up getting to Wessex, because everybody wants to kill him now. He's being blamed for the death. So he has to go actually fight against the Danes. He goes over to King Alfred, and I'll talk about King Alfred for a second. The guy is a little weasel, okay? He's a little weasel, but you have to understand, because this story is being told from the perspective of Uhtred, and we know Uhtred has good intentions, right? You can't blame Alfred for, after everything that's happened and them constantly experiencing like attack and attack after attack after attack with Danes and how violent these people are in comparison to just, they're going to sit down and they're going to pray. It's understandable to not trust Uhtred, but you got to give him a little leeway for everything that he's done, man. So anyways, he comes in, he gives advice on an attack from the Danes coming. They're successful, but he still doesn't really trust Uhtred, doesn't care about Uhtred, and probably just hates Uhtred. And this is a big difference, and this is one of my, it shouldn't be an issue with the show, but it kind of is an issue because I can't get over it. Alfred from Vikings was a very cool, very well fleshed out, very beloved character. I think Alfred is awesome in Vikings. Now I'm looking at this character, I'm like, man, this guy's a little weasel, eh? But it's not fair for me to compare that. The only thing is I can't exactly help it because Vikings is one of my favorite shows ever. So after that first battle, and I forgot to mention that Uhtred and Brita were both in prison, just in case they did anything while everybody was out to battle. And dude, Brita would have been so difficult to be with. Dude, first of all, okay, they're Vikings. I understand how you'd want to be somebody like that, but that is just like the complete opposite of like anybody attractive ever, the way that Brita's behaving. Dude, Brita, whoever plays that actress, so good at what she does. So good. Just being unladylike and wanting to kill people. Dude, but it's so difficult because Uhtred's trying to actually, like, find a home for the time being. He's trying to find peace, and he's going to, like, go on about his own mission. And Britta's just like, screw you guys! Like, you know what I mean? She's difficult to deal with, okay? She's difficult to travel with. They came over to a priest that knew Uhtred as well, and of course, like, he's had experiences there before. But anyways, he ends up getting asked by Alfred to train his warriors and prepare them for more attacks from the Danes. He agrees for 1 year of his time. And we're going to get into a little bit more of the whole I had a vow thing. Or you know what, I might as well talk about that now because it's around the same time. And I'm going off of like a couple point forms that I have on my other monitor over here of things that I don't forget to talk about. So the order of some things might be a little messed up, but I think I have it for the most part, okay? So Ragnar ends up coming back. Kind of just wants to... I don't know if they wanted to take over a different area or if they just wanted to leave and just spend the rest of eternity together. But Uhtred is so bound by his word. And this is the difficult thing because we kind of know what Alfred's like at this point, and we know that he's not going to be accepted into the Kingdom of Wessex. I understand more than anybody. Like, my word is my bond. Like, that's how I live my entire life. A promise, you always keep your promise. But there are limits to that, man. Like, if I were to say, like, I don't know... I promise, I'm trying to think of like a very insignificant promise to make somebody. Like if I promise my neighbor I'll help him move his couch, but then my neighbor like slashes my tires, I'm not going to keep my promise. It's a very stupid comparison, but I feel like that's what Uhtred's like kind of going on about. He's like, I gave my word as much as I want to come with you. He wants to go with his like his family wants to go with him, but you're just bound by your word there. That's where I don't find myself agreeing to Uhtred, but it still is a respectable thing to have as a character. So him and Brita actually split up, which I did not see coming. And while I didn't like Brita personally, she was very interesting as a character to watch. You know what I mean? So and her return was only a little bit more hurtful, but we'll get on that as time continues. So Uhtred's going about this entire thing by himself, which I did not see coming. I thought it was going to be a story about him and Brita because those are the two that survived the initial attack. So it's kind of cool how this played with my expectations just a little bit throughout the story. We'll talk a little bit more about the Danes in just a second, but we have to talk about what happens to Uhtred next, and that is he's married off, and he's tricked again by Alfred. And you could just tell by looking at Alfred, man, the dude did not have any sort of care in the world for Uhtred. So he gives him, of course, tricking any man under the sun, he gives him a wife. And the wife's name is not Mildred, Milthrith. I apologize, Mildred. Sorry if I'm mispronouncing her name, but she's in Uhtred's eyes, a very beautiful girl. And it's always fascinating to me how easily influenced men are just by beauty. So he was understandably, a little bit weary. He's like, okay, Alfred clearly doesn't like me. Why is he giving me such a beautiful wife? What's the catch? And the catch is that she has a father who has passed away, and that father had a ton of debt. One that's like, they made it sound like it's impossible to pay off. I don't know to like what level. I don't remember what they said, if it was silver or whatever it was. Whatever it was, they made it sound like impossible for Uhtred to possibly pay off. So he's stuck with that. And poor Mildred, somebody of the faith, marrying somebody like Uhtred, but she ended up coming in to love him. While the relationship was rocky, we had a little bit of a time jump. They had a son together. Or she was pregnant, excuse me, so the son wasn't born at this point. Everything ended up being great. And it's funny because I'm a man of faith myself, and I've found myself having particular conversations in prayer and things like that, like Mildred was having in the show, where it made me laugh, where she's like, Lord, I understand that he's not your most devout follower, but I ask you to watch over him anyways because he has a good heart. I've had that same conversation myself about a million times throughout my life, so I found a little bit of humor in that entire thing, but I know that's a little bit of an isolated incident. But regardless, they have a little bit of back and forth. They talk about the son, like Uhtred doesn't want him to be baptized. She does. It's always a horrible clash when you have one person of faith and one person not in faith. Like, you should not get married if that's the case at all, but there's only so much that you can do. And I forgot to talk about too. Oh, what's his name? Is it Otta? The little weasel that is with Alfred. I'm sorry, I'm forgetting his name. The guy that Uhtred was constantly like, he was in love with Mildred, but Uhtred being, not proper, going, oh yeah, she's a good hump. And they say hump throughout the entire show, which I found funny, to be honest, because you don't hear that too often. Oh yeah, we're just gonna hump all day, hump all night. Like, Ada, she's She's a good hump. I bet you wish you could hump her, eh? Like, I found all of that pretty funny, to be honest with you. But in the meantime, they get invaded again. And while they didn't get invaded, there was like a little bit of a treaty because the Danes ended up returning and Uhtred was one of the hostages. But this is where we're reintroduced to Brita. And again, there's been a big time jump over here. I don't know how long they were married for. And obviously Mildred is almost giving birth to the child, but I don't know how much time was actually passed before that. But they made it seem like it was a significant amount of time, which it probably was due to the travel. Now, them reuniting was very odd because Uhtred, we know, is a good guy at heart, and he was just happy to see Ragnar. He was happy to see Brita. First of all, scum! Ragnar took his girl. Oh, but I would imagine like that's more part of like the Vikings culture because Uhtred probably, I mean, he seemed like he was genuinely happy for Brita and Ragnar that they found happiness within each other. But him and Brita can no longer hump. So he's happy with that. He seemed okay with that, but like, oh my god. That would not fly anywhere near like in today's era. I don't know how it flew back then, but like a past girl is off limits, dude. But he was happy to see Brita, but Brita was just being so nasty to him. I get that she felt betrayed. I get that she doesn't understand why you would give your word to the people that obviously want them dead. I understand her perspective completely. But to hate Uhtred? Really? Like, at least Ragnar comes in. They, like, collide heads, and they're like, hey, I love you, brother. I love you. Like, and they're... No, even though they see things differently, they still respect one another. They still love one another. Brita's just being nasty to him, man. Nasty. But anyways... There's not much I can break down after that because we have that entire scene where Uhtred goes to burn the ships. The peace ended up getting squashed. Uhtred was the only one to survive because of Ragnar. It almost makes me think that Brita would have killed him, to be honest with you. I don't know if she would have gotten that far. I don't know if they're going to even end up getting back together again, but point being, their relationship is certainly rocky. And it was a good episode, too. It was a good episode. I know I, simplified it, but there's only so much that I could break down. They had a mission to go burn the ships. But now things heat up, because after all of that, after the burning of the ships, after that first mission, we actually... And I didn't think it was going to be so quick, because we had Uhtred end up fighting Abba. Excuse me if I'm, mispronouncing the name. It's a little bit fuzzy to me, because he didn't really end up mattering that much in the grand scheme of things. There was this big Viking, or this big Dane warrior that was the big baddie, and he was in charge of everything. There was a pretty cool fight, but Uhtred ended up winning the fight pretty handily. So he saved the day. He saved Wessex. But then he returns home, and Otta, the little slime ball, was the guy who ended up taking all of the credit. Now, should he have taken the credit? Obviously not. But this is where, you know what? It's difficult because we're obviously different people. But I'm like, Uhtred, why are you, willingly making so many enemies? Because obviously, this dude, I know he's a slime ball, but keep him on your side. He's close with Alfred. Don't talk about haha, so you like this girl, eh? Yeah, I'm humping her real good. You know, why? Why is that necessary? You know what I mean? But he ended up just turning it up a little bit. But now, Otto is officially a real bad guy because Uhtred came back. Nobody believes him because he's a Dane. Otto already ended up taking all of the credit. Everybody believes him, and there were witnesses of the church, I guess. But Alfred instead just humiliates Uhtred, and Uhtred, understandably so, is very pissed off because after everything that he did, he's not going to ever be seen as an Elderman, which he needs to be seen as. He wants to be free of his debt. He wants to get land and make a name for himself. Then he goes home and finds that one of the workers or the keepers of the house, whatever, was cheating him out of money, something like that. Turned into a Dane himself. Not that he ever, didn't become a Dane, but he was like, all right, he's done. This guy's dead. Mildred now has a problem with that again, understandably so. And this is where I struggle with my own faith, okay? Don't want to make this an entire conversation about that, but I am a man of faith, and we all know that you don't kill people. But I'm on Uhtred's side in the sense, dude, get that scum out of here, you know? After all of that, that's the type of thing that actually affects change. I'm not saying, again, don't take that the wrong way. I'm just saying that I understand Uhtred's perspective in this. But Mildred obviously has an issue with it. They're falling out of love. And Uhtred just no, this is what needs to happen to him. He betrayed me. Problems start arising from that. So Uhtred's pissed off. Uhtred's done with this entire situation. So what does he decide to do? Go raiding. And I enjoyed this, and I wish I could break it down a little bit more for you, but they got a really fun group of people. The characters were great. You had the guy that the crown was stolen from him. He was a good addition too. The best friend, I'm forgetting his name as well, or like I would say it's Uhtred's best friend. The characters that ended up going on the raid was cool. They ended up finding those other Danes, kind of allying with them. That whole scene was fun, but it didn't really pick up until they ended up getting back to, I forget where they went to. They described where it was, and I'm sorry, guys. I hope this video is still enjoyable to watch, but there's a lot of information that's, like, kind of slipping my mind because I'm fresh off of watching the season, okay? I don't remember, like, that particular details where they were, but they were far enough where it wasn't Alfred that they were raiding, okay? So they're looking for silver. They end up getting betrayed. They end up taking off. They don't have any silver, but what Uhtred does get is his new Shadow Queen, which I'm like, oh boy, he's going to fall in love with this chick, and then he's going to bring her home, and he's not going to see an issue with it because he's a Dane. And that's kind of what happens. And now we're introduced to the Shadow Queen, who has this power, and as long as she's a virgin, she can see the future of things. I didn't think that there was going to be, like, any sort of magical element within the show. But then again, I was thinking maybe it's, like, kind of like the Seer and Vikings, and maybe this is just, like, kind of how history is told throughout this era. I'm not too sure. But I thought she was a very interesting character, and I was hoping we would see her for the seasons to come. But the Shadow Queen ended up actually bringing them to some more silver. They got some treasure. He comes back, and Uhtred brings a special cross to the church to get his name free of debt. Goes back to Mildred, talks about how you're completely free. Oh, wait, I'm jumping the gun a little bit. First, he ended up going back to Alfred, right? And then Alfred figured it out because there was one person that escaped from that church that they raided, told Alfred about it. Alfred wants this dude dead. And the entire time, dude, I'm like, why are you even talking to Alfred? Why? Just do your own thing, get your own army of Danes, and take over. Because you're never going to be seen as somebody good in the eyes of Alfred, which might be changing as the season came to a close. But he ended up barely surviving because that friend offered him a one-on-one duel. They have the fight, and I was fully expecting for Uhtred to just kill his friend, even though his friend was a great warrior and he's offering him a warrior's death and all those things. Like, it was sad, and Uhtred spent that time, you know, preparing to have to take on his friend, forgetting that he's his friend. The duel, while it lasted, was very fun. I like that they started, like, how violent it got and how they were actually, like, trying, obviously, that's the goal, they were trying to kill each other, but they went all out, dude. They were trying to, like, really live there. But then everything ends up getting saved because the place ends up getting attacked again. And this offers everybody a chance to escape. And dude, I don't know, like, looking back on this, it's probably a little bit predictable, but I didn't see it coming. When they all ended up escaping and they found themselves in the grassland, they get on one singular boat with a man in a hood. And it's Alfred. Dude, I didn't spend enough time in this video talking about how scummed out Uhtred was of everything because of Alfred. Oh my god. I thought that we were going to see Uhtred just stomp him. I thought he was going to get humiliated. He was going to make him bow on his knees and beg for forgiveness, all those things. But I don't know why Uhtred's not doing that. I really don't. Like, is it because Alfred still has that much influence? I understand he's a king, but come on. You could have just wrote it off as, like, but then again, Uhtred probably wouldn't have done that. You could have wrote it off where it's like, oh, the Danes got him. I found his body. It's here. But meanwhile, Uhtred's, like, stabbing his sword inside of him. You know what I mean? I don't know why Uhtred didn't make him even just, like, row the boat. No, you're taking us, sir. That would have been very satisfying. And I thought that's kind of like what it was building up. But now that the show's coming to a close, I think that Uhtred and Alfred are going to become friends, which I don't want to see. But I'm sure I'll be happy with it by the end because, again, this season was, like, consistently entertaining. So the king's in hiding. They're all in hiding. They're in this, like, weird grassland. The king's son is extremely sick, and the king's son is actually dying. So they end up going to the Shadow Queen, and she figured out that Alfred was sick because he was bleeding out of his butt, but she made something. Sorry, I just fired that off like it was nothing. I mean, at the end of the day, it is nothing. So she ended up making him some soup or whatever to cure him, and he made him feel better. So he was a little bit more open to giving his son to her to cure because she's the Shadow Queen. She can cast a spell, whatever it is, to actually cure the son. And the only thing about that, which the king doesn't know, is that this dark magic that she's using, she's going to sacrifice the life of another baby in order to save this dying baby, which she did not want to do. I don't know if anybody else did, but I saw it coming. I wasn't, like, sold where it was like, okay, well, Uhtred's son's going to be the one to die. I was like, you know, if I was writing this show, that might be a consequence that ended up happening. But I'm thinking again, okay, well, think about all of the babies on the planet Earth. The chances of being Uhtred's kid, you know, is basically nothing. But I was thinking that in the back of my mind, like, okay, what if Uhtred gets back, or what if he sees Mildred and finds out that his son died a long time ago or something like that? I was thinking that that could be like a plot point for like, I don't know if the series is concluded or not. I know like right now there's like 5 seasons. With something we find out in like season 5, like, oh, that's what happened to your son. It was because you did this back in season 1. I think that would be a very, very fun plot twist. But they end up having a lot of back and forth because the wife hates the Shadow Queen, and it's difficult because you watch all of these people, like, you have to think about like their specific circumstance. You have all of these people who like behead people, they come in, they raid, they steal. Obviously you wouldn't trust them. It's easy for me to say as somebody who like lives in 2025 here that yes, I view everybody as an individual, and I would never just base something off of somebody like, you know, because of their background, right? Well, I mean, background of action say something. I'm not talking about like their background. It's like someone judging me because I'm Irish. You know what I mean? I don't feel that we do that. But for that specific time period, watching what the Danes constantly do, you have to understand the wife's perspective and not wanting to give her baby up. But there's only so much that you can do because your kid's actually dying. So I like that Alfred ended up giving her to the queen. And I'm not going to lie, guys. Oh, it's so difficult to put yourself in a situation because I'm a parent myself. I have well, I keep saying newborn in these videos, but she's not a newborn anymore. But I have a 1-year-old daughter. I probably would do the same thing. As much as it is against my principles, like, it's difficult because you have to put yourself in that situation. And for those of you watching this video that might be parents, you would do literally anything under the sun for your kid. If your kid's dying, if your kid's suffering, would you not do the same thing that Alfred did? It's so difficult because it's so easy to say no, but when you're actually in that situation, all of us probably would. So the kid gets saved. Everything ends up being okay. Everybody starts thanking God. Dude, none of them said thank you to Uhtred's girl. None of them. None of them. And I forgot to mention how like their bond has been growing over time. And there was a particular moment too where she saw the future and is like, Uhtred, your journey continues north. You're going to succeed. You're not going to die. And he goes, you'll be with me. And she doesn't answer him. I'm like, she might not make it out of this season, dude. But I liked her. I wanted her to see her continue. But they wanted to sleep together, but she couldn't sleep because then she would lose her power. But anyways, shortly after all of that, we have the final battle. And I thought the final battle was very well done. And I don't want to compare this show to Vikings, but I can't help but do it. I think Vikings did the battles a little bit better, but this was an excellent battle too. Very, very fun to watch. Uhtred leads the army. They have all of their supporters end up coming in. Alfred ends up talking about how he saw something in the distance, and it was all of the warriors actually coming to help everybody so they can actually fight against all of the Danes. The battle itself was very cool. I can't exactly break it down too much. They had a shield wall. They pushed forward. It's probably not going to be interesting for me to talk about, but probably what was the saddest part throughout the entire season was how you saw it coming, where they were losing the battle a little bit, so that scumbag leader there ended up going over to the wives and children and found Uhtred's girl, comes back, dude, and it was shocking. I expected him to just find out, like, after the battle that she died. No, dude comes back with her head in his hands. Uhtred goes into a crazy fit of rage, understandably so, breaks formation, attacks, and I would have liked to see the revenge kill a little bit more, but you just saw him, like, digging his sword into there. That's what I thought we were going to see with Alfred, dude. That's what I thought we were going to see him do to Alfred. That's what Alfred deserves, kind of. I understand why Alfred's not trusting, but, like, you have to trust Uhtred at some point. He's done enough, you know? But then again, I keep sitting back and I'm thinking, okay, we're being told from the point of view of Uhtred, so we understand this. It's a very, very difficult situation. So, he breaks formation. He gets revenge. He's completely broken because this girl was supposed to be his forever now, and now he's all alone. But his journey continues north. There were some people that ended up converting to Christianity. They all ended up winning, and I don't know what this show's still going to be about. Oh, you know what I forgot to talk about too? I was thinking about the Shadow Queen. I said I would circle back to this, but I never did. I might as well touch on it a little bit before we end up closing things off. And it's like that whole thing where Uhtred came back to actually find his son. That was heartbreaking. And unfortunately, I kind of saw that coming. Mildred is I don't know. There was a separate time. No, there wasn't. I'm remembering it a little bit fuzzy, guys. I'm sorry about that. Where he was arguing with Mildred because he just brought this other girl home. Obviously, you can't do that because he still has a wife, but he doesn't love her anymore. She disrespected his wishes, which at the end of the day, you shouldn't do. But then again, you got to think about it from her perspective. She's got to save the child from the devil. There's a lot to break down with this entire thing, man. I just feel bad for Mildred because she was married off. She didn't deserve that, man. But their relationship kind of shattered, and Uhtred shouldn't have brought another girl home, and they ended up just sleeping together and giggling, and she had to listen to that, and their kid died. That's tough. And Uhtred's a good actor too, man, because when he found the grave, he actually dug up the kid, which was crazy, and just held it and cried. I know I'm a little bit out of order over here, but that was heartbreaking too. It was heartbreaking to see the Shadow Queen die, and I have no idea what to expect now. He's talking about, I'm Uhtred, I have this mission, I'm traveling north. I thought the first season of The Last Kingdom was excellent. I know a lot of people talk about the show being better than Vikings. It might get that way, but I personally am still a big Vikings fan, and I'm probably going to hold on to that because I love the characters so much. But regardless, I'm really, really thoroughly enjoying myself watching this. Thank you so much for listening. If you want to hear a review for Vikings, why don't you check out our Season 6 review, the finale, guys. I'd love to have you over there. Thanks for watching, everybody. Take care.